Goats and sheep are perfectly suited for people with small acreage. And of course, if you have small acreage, you probably want to maximize its use as much as possible. Which raises the question, how many animals can your property hold? How many goats or sheep can you sustain on the land that you have? Well, the answer to that is probably going to vary greatly depending on the type of property that you have. Whether you have open pasture, or if you have browse, or if you have a wooded area. So today, let's try to figure out what would be some recommended stocking ratios for whatever type of property that you might have. Come along. In open pasture, if you have good grass, you can usually hold 5 adult goats or sheep per acre. I found that the stocking ratio on open pasture with good grass is about the same for goats and sheep. Now in the summertime, when the grass is growing and the temperatures are warm, they're probably not going to be able to keep up with it if you only have 5 per acre. But in the wintertime, when the grass goes dormant because of the cooler temperatures, any more than that, you're going to have to feed a lot of hay or a lot of other expense in grain and supplement feeding. So 5 per acre on good grass works pretty well. If you fertilize the grass heavily, if you do rotational grazing, you may be able to bump that number up to 6 to 7 per acre. I've run as many as 7 per acre, but I was doing some intensive rotational grazing. And so that worked okay under those circumstances. But if your ground is poor or you don't have much good grass, then you're going to have to reduce that number to maybe 3 or 4 head per acre. If you have browse, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to determine an exact stocking ratio because there's so many variables. How much of the browse is actually edible to them? How much of it is too tall for them to reach? Are the leaves all going to fall off after the first frost and there's not anything left for them to eat? And so there are a lot of factors, but probably a good rule of thumb is 3 goats per acre, probably 2 sheep per acre. Now the exception to that would be if you're trying to clear the land off. And a lot of people use goats in order to clear land. Goats are going to do better than sheep because it's their nature to browse. Sheep are going to want to eat grass more than browse. But if you're trying to clear land, then you need to overstock. And as many as 10 goats per acre for the first year, you could probably even do more than that. What'll happen in the summertime, they'll eat all of the foliage that they can reach. And then in the wintertime, they'll actually eat the bark off of the small saplings, which will allow those small saplings to die. And after a couple of years, you'll pretty much be able to run a bush hog or a cutter through there and clear it out. So rule of thumb, if you've got browse, probably 3 goats per acre, 2 sheep per acre. And if you're trying to clear it, you can overstock with as many goats as you can fit on there for the first year. Much like an area that has browse, a wooded area is difficult to determine an exact stocking ratio for livestock. Every wooded area is going to be different. Some wooded areas are going to have a thick canopy of trees that allows very little sunlight to penetrate, and therefore there's not much vegetation that can grow. Others may allow more sunlight in, and therefore more browse can spring up, feeding the animals. Some are going to produce more soft mass, such as acorns or persimmons or some other type of fruit-bearing tree. Generally speaking, I wouldn't want to stock more than 1 to 2 adult animals per acre if most of your property is in dense woods. Whatever type of property you have, you're going to be able to maximize its use by doing rotational grazing. Rotational grazing is simply dividing your property up into smaller pastures and then rotating the animals from one pasture to another. This allows the animals to be moved into a pasture that's not been overgrazed and has fresh, nutritious grass for them to eat. It also allows the pasture that you just moved them out of to regrow. So there's that advantage of being able to maximize the number of animals. You're also going to have an added advantage of having less parasite problems and less disease problems. That's a topic for another video, but if you're trying to maximize your land and run as many head as possible on it, rotational grazing is definitely the way to go. Appreciate you watching the video. If you found this to be helpful in any way, like it, subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. If you're in the Northwest Alabama area or within driving distance of Northwest Alabama and you need some goats and sheep, give me a call. Thanks, and happy farming.